and welcome. The concept of big data in banking can sound frightening, but actually it's pretty exciting, because if banks can understand how you behave and consume and transact, particularly over the internet and mobile, perhaps your experience could be better. Let's understand this from once data warehousing and now also data analytics company Teradata. I'm joined by Makrand Jadhav, Head of Consultative Sales at the company in India. Makrand, thank you very much for speaking with us. So you were telling me about path analysis, how you follow how a consumer transacts and then try and sort of predict and perhaps enable his or her transaction. Tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, it's an exciting time actually for for most banking and financial service customers because of this advent of new capability, I would say. Even in India, the net banking population is growing dramatically as all of us adopt it. And even insurance products now are available for me to buy online without going to the office. That's where the path analysis is making a lot of sense. We worked with top 3 US retail banker where they use this to understand what paths does a customer take before he buys a product, and they call it the golden path to success, right? Because I'm buying from you.
So give us one insight of what we think happens and what we think happens but does not happen.
And I would like to relate from an India context where it's a very common thing, and I do it personally as well, which says that if I want to buy an insurance product, obviously I go to a few insurance providers, and the second thing I would do, or maybe third thing, is look at the calculator. But there is a tendency where aggregators also have a strong role here in India, and they keep poking you. So at least on the 4th step, I would, before I sign on, I would say, let me just have a look. Just have a look. I think that is the use case, from our standpoint, where if a service provider like the leading ones can make that, okay, after reaching to the calculator or after in the 4th step, the customers have a tendency to go to an aggregator. Why can't I produce them a small widget at that point in time, step 4, saying that, oh, this is what others are providing and this is what you are getting. It's a very, very productive.
Which intuitively you may not want to do.
Correct.
But actually it makes more sense, as you're saying.
That's right. So, that's one very popular example. Deviation or, a slight version of that is purely from a customer retention standpoint, right? Where in Indian context, again, if I have 3 accounts and let's say in the last 3 months I have closed 2, very clearly, it is known that I will close the 3rd one. How can I track that? So my net banking activity has reduced, my AQB has reduced. If I can bring that together.
What's AQB?
Average quarterly balance. Then if I can bring that together, doing path analysis or something similar, it can clearly tell the bankers that you're not servicing this guy correct. He's already on his way out.
Right. What's the difference between analytics and big data analytics? I mean, the word big data has some sort of connotation.
So I would say, based on our experience, is that big data enables you to do more with data, right? So analytics and big data in that sense are not distinct. So in analytics I could do X. Now with the advent of additional data, I can do X by a factor of 5. So things like NPath analysis, things like graph analysis, which LinkedIn uses for all of us, things like recommendation engines, which eBay or Flipkart does for
Amazon
us.
And so
Amazon does it. Those were not available earlier. Now that analytics, because of advent of big data, has been available and is now coming into mainstream.
Right.
So in that
what are some of the different ways that Indian consumers consume or transact, particularly online, as opposed to, let's say, other countries? And in terms of your understanding from the data.
I think one really good example I like to give is, and they are not a customer either, and they are just is Make My Trip. And it happened with 2 of us in my organization, right, where we were online, we are making a purchase, and when I am at the payment gateway, the transaction obviously gets aborted, either the net connection or what have you. Within a minute, we have received calls from Make My Trip saying that, Mr. Customer, Mr. Makrand, I understand you are just trying to do this transaction, but it's about, let me help you, just log in right now and we'll start from where you left.
Correct.
I think that's a classical example. Again, someone is taking data from the web, taking data from your history and your contact from your logs, making it available quickly and contacting me before I go to another website because I would have been tired by making my. It's a very real life example that people are doing. I don't know whether you would call it big data or they have technologies, but it's a process thing. And
so what's unique, in some ways, what are the unique Indian traits when it comes to behavior and the way maybe companies are responding to that?
I think, from a company's perspective, people are still discovering what they can do with it. So the last 1 year, I would have met with almost all the top tier banks you would, and they are trying to do what I can do more. Customer service is a big area. So one of the common things that we have heard is, I want to analyze not what my call center agent talks, but what is written in that free text form, because that actually is the pearl. If I can know what is written there, I can analyze that, link it to the history. It will be far better for me to service customer. Earlier that was not possible, right? You had only 4 drop downs and it could really not give the customer service guy any example. The other example I can think of is not so much on service, but little bit on regulatory or compliance, where most of us, when we are on the website buying an insurance product, we don't really read the TNCs, right? Even and you just go and click. But some guys, not in India but others, are feeling that maybe the customer should not simply tick in a matter of 1 second after he has done the earlier step.
Yeah, so you have to make sure he or she reads the whole thing.
So they actually intercept before he commits, and they call and say that, sir, we would request you to at least look at these 5 key points, right? So these 2 I think are examples which come close to what we are doing now and what banks would want to do in a short term, given that they are still in a discovery phase and the adoption has to increase.
So can you tell us, I mean, if you were to now look a little ahead, what are the 1 or 2 cool things that could happen or could happen to me as a consumer, thanks to all this work that's happening at the back end?
Yeah, I think what I also want as a consumer is
and that's possible.
Yeah, certainly. If especially in banking, right? I go on internet banking and I do a transaction. It doesn't go all properly. I call up the call center. The call center, I have to do I have to almost tell him all over again. If he doesn't really solve, then I actually walk into the branch. And again, when I go to the branch, again, of course, right? So I think one of the applications I would like to see is banks bringing all this experience together.
And that's possible.
Absolutely possible, because bringing it together and analyzing it together is far becoming mainstream. So that I would really like to see, that every time I go in, they already know about me. And in India, the only challenge is that we have a large number of customers, right? So it requires a certain amount of time by which you need to do it, otherwise the relevancy is lost. But I hope nearly in some maybe quarters we should be able to get there where someone can bring all this experience together for me. So that's one thing I am looking forward to as a customer.
Right. So last question. So you think that fundamentally technology and analytics can change the way consumers or people bank and the whole banking process?
Yeah, I think so. I think, for example, another example I'll give is a large Southeast Asian bank where they have adopted this Amazon, people like you option, and they have ported it to their wealth management group.
I see.
Right. So if I log in, one is the wealth manager will recommend to me, but they'll also say, okay, people like you with these characteristics are
buying yachts and
whatever they want to sell. But I think that is something which dramatically changes how I behave with a bank, how I perceive the bank to be, and I think things are going in that direction.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Makrand.
My pleasure.
Thank you.